The Batman Arkham franchise has become a mainstay of superhero video games. Before Arkham Asylum in 2009, the best video games we had were either fighting games, such as Marvel vs. Capcom, or movie tie-ins, such as Spider-Man 2, which sure had great gameplay, but everything else, like the story, the atmosphere, and the voice acting, was...
Parker! Where were you 15 minutes ago? There's a Latvian diplomat coming into the city by helicopter.
lacking. We didn't used to have gripping stories with twists and turns and engaging character arcs that made us feel like the comics had been doing for decades at that point. But Arkham Asylum came to rectify all of that.
One little bat.
The story wasn't all that deep, it was just another Batman vs. Joker story, but this time we had the character of the Asylum, which carried a deep history and personality. It felt alive. And Rocksteady showed us that it wasn't just a fluke in 2011, when they released Arkham City, a game that did everything Asylum did, but better. Better story, better atmosphere, better gameplay, and better characters. As someone who grew up with this game, I can say that its plot twists are amazing, the gameplay is fantastic, and the feeling of watching the Joker die was one that my 12-year-old brain had to grapple with and analyze with all of my 6 brain cells. Then, in 2015, Rocksteady released Arkham Knight, a fitting finale to the franchise. I have my issues with the game, which I may talk about at some point. But to be honest, it did what it had to do. Finish the Batman Arkham story, not with a whimper, but with a triumphant explosion. So by this point, Rocksteady had done it. They had released the best superhero video game trilogy at that point. Then they released a decent VR experience and Suicide Squad. But that's okay, because the Batman Arkham trilogy with its 3 games was perfect. Wait, what's that? There are more Arkham games? Oh, sure, you mean Batman Arkham Shadow. The VR-only experience that I can't play because I'm not willing to pay for a MetaQuest 3. Oh, you're not talking about that. Well, maybe you mean the straight-to-handhelds game, Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate? I haven't played it because it's not my style of game and doesn't really have much in common with the Arkham franchise, but sure. Oh, you mean the other Arkham game? Well, let's get into it. And let's discuss the often forgotten masterpiece, Batman Arkham Origins. Batman Arkham Origins is a game developed by WB Montreal and published by Warner Bros. Entertainment in October 25th, 2013 for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Wii U, and Windows. Or at least that's what Wikipedia says. This game was made by WB Montreal and not Rocksteady because, well, people didn't really care about Arkham Origins. They knew that this was just a prelude to what was actually going to be the finale to the franchise, the at the time unnamed Arkham Knight. Origins was just a way to appease the fans because of the 4-year gap between City and Knight, and we can see that clearly. Arkham Origins recycles a lot of things that City did before, without adding a ton. But honestly, viewing Arkham Origins as just City 1.5 is a disservice to an amazing game that deserves to be talked about more often. So let's discuss, why do I think Arkham Origins is a forgotten masterpiece? Let's start with the gameplay, since, honestly, it's the part I'm least interested in. Let's acknowledge the truth. Arkham Origins is pretty much the same as Arkham City. It has most of the same moves, the same attacks, same animations, and half of the map is the same. If you look at it that way, it makes sense why people didn't like it as much. It didn't evolve the combat or Predator sections as much as Arkham Knight would do just 2 years later. But honestly, is that really such a bad thing? Sure, we can all agree that Arkham Knight has the perfect Batman combat and Predator mechanics in the whole series, but Arkham City has a really polished system as well. We have to remember that until 2015, Arkham City was the best combat system in a superhero game. Period. Sure, Marvel Spider-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, or the amazing multiverses would do great jobs at that as well, but that was because of the foundation that Arkham City had created. And we have to remember, Arkham Origins shared all of that with City, because it had the same combat, animations, and combos. The fact that this game has the same mechanics should be seen as something positive, not as something negative. If Origins wasn't part of the Arkham franchise and had a completely different combat system, fans would have been disappointed that we didn't get the same system that had worked previously with Rocksteady's titles. The reality is that Origins took what City had done before, and didn't try to completely perfect it like Knight would later do, but just to improve it enough where it would be considered a polished version. It adds a few new gadgets, such as the Disruptor, which helps even the odds in Predator sections, and the Remote Batclaw, which should have been in Arkham Knight because it's fucking great and has many uses. Arkham Origins did everything gameplay-wise that City did, but better. Well, except for one thing. The shock gloves really weren't a good decision gameplay-wise. In the story, they serve a necessary function in two of its most important points. But in combat, they just function as the I win button. You just need to hit a few combos, and after that, activate the shock gloves and watch as all your enemies crumble. And honestly, yeah, it sucks. The shock gloves could have served a more interesting function during combat, such as disabling the armored enforcers or enemies with shields easier. But instead it just undermines every other part of the combat system and makes it a joke. But still, even with that, Arkham Origins gameplay is fantastic. It does what it should, be an entertaining game with great mechanics, while giving you new scenarios to test out your bat toys. And it does that really nicely. But with that out of the way, we can get into the meat and potatoes of this video. What would you think if I told you that this is the best story and characters that we have gotten in the complete Arkham series? Without counting Shadows, because I haven't played it yet. Well, the truth is, I think it definitely is the best one. The game is set during Bruce's second year as Batman when, during Christmas Eve, Black Mask hires 8 assassins to take out the Batman. Bane, Copperhead, Deadshot, Deathstroke, the Electrocutioner, Firefly, Killer Croc, and Lady Shiva. Simultaneously, the world begins to actually recognize that the Batman isn't just a myth, but an actual vigilante that is there to protect Gotham. The setup is great, that places a lot of importance on the fact that these are Batman's early years and that most of his relationships, both with allies and enemies, aren't completely set up yet, and it had great potential. But most people didn't like the fact that the assassin plotline is pretty quickly dismissed. Killer Croc, Copperhead, and Electrocutioner are easily dispatched either by Batman or a few other characters. Lady Shiva and Deadshot are both relegated to side missions, and Lady Shiva doesn't even try to kill Batman. That pretty much just leaves Firefly, Deathstroke, and Bane. Firefly is a pretty nice set piece during the game, and is the first time the GCPD begins to trust the Batman and his methods. Deathstroke is, as always, a very interesting character with a strong sense of honor, and has by far one of the best boss fights that this series has ever seen. And then there is Bane. Don't worry, we will talk about him later. So that means that out of all 8 assassins, only 3 are really important to the story. All the other ones are just there to fluff out the concept and give some development to the other characters. But, at least, we still have the main villain. Oh, right. Well, around a third of the way through the game, we learn that Black Mask isn't actually Black Mask, but the Joker impersonating him to use his influence to hire the assassins and kill the Bat. As you can imagine, a lot of people were angry because of this decision. The last 2 games were all about Joker, and here, they had the chance to create a different kind of Batman story. But they still chose to make it about the Batman and Joker's relationship. Most players were tired of this. Why did they decide to waste such an interesting concept? Why just rethread a story that has been told countless times? If I'm talking about the game like this, why do I claim that it's a masterpiece? The truth is, I don't care. I don't care that the game isn't about the 8 assassins. I don't care that actually Black Mask is the Joker. I don't care because in spite of this, the story is still amazing. In this game, we deal with the proto-version of the characters we meet during the other games. They aren't completely the same characters we remember. They are pretty similar in some cases, but they are all missing one piece that makes them them. First, we have the titular character. Batman. Well, obviously I got confused because this is the only game where Batman doesn't feel like a bland piece of cardboard, but actually a complete character. Look, I don't have anything against the other 3 Arkham games and their cold depictions of Batman. We need representations of the character where he's just a complete machine, a badass that does everything the world needs without showing his emotions. But obviously, this isn't always the best. I mean, look at this scene.
Jason, but you're dead.
Is this the way that a person would react seeing his thought-to-be-dead adopted son trying to kill him with all his might? I always thought that this scene was just not it. I understand trying to make the Batman more of a symbol, but writers often forget that there is supposed to be a person under the mask. A boy who swore to inflict justice in his city after the death of his parents. A man that pushed his body and mind to the limit to ensure that no other kid would have to suffer what he has suffered. And after finding out his surrogate son, a boy that he left to die, is alive, he reacts like this? I don't buy it. But Origins does this correctly. At one point in the story, Alfred is left for dead, under rubble in the Batcave. Alfred actually dies, and this is how Bruce reacts.
No!
This is how the Batman should react to something as traumatizing as this. He's still human after all. And even after Alfred is revived thanks to the shock gloves, Bruce isn't completely sure he should continue with his crusade. He was too close to losing the one person that he truly cared for at that point. It isn't until Alfred reminds him of who he is and what he can do for the city that Bruce puts on the cowl once more to face his challenge head on. That's how you handle the Batman's emotions, not by hiding them, but by showing us that even though he can feel and be affected by everything that happens around him, he is the Batman because he can actually deal with those feelings and help the city become a better place. And actually, that's another one of Bruce's arcs in this game. At the beginning, we see a Batman completely engulfed in shadows, ready to strike anything and anyone in his path. Sure, he is trying to be a symbol for the city, but not one of hope, one of fear. Not only do criminals fear him, but also civilians, the GCPD, even Alfred is scared of him sometimes. And that's not how he should operate. The Batman, at first, is a symbol of everything that is wrong with Gotham, and should Bruce have kept on that path, he wouldn't have been better than the criminals he faces. Thankfully, thanks to Alfred, Gordon, and a few other key characters, he is able to understand his biggest flaw, start working with others, and become a symbol of what Gotham should become. His allies and his ability to overcome his biggest weaknesses is what made Bruce the best Batman that he could be. But of course, for all of this to happen, he needed his allies, especially his surrogate father. Now, Alfred's section is going to be a sort of continuation of Bruce's, since their stories are so intertwined. First, let me preface this by saying that, same as Batman, Alfred wasn't the best character in the other games. Both in Asylum and City, he remained faceless, and although he was better in Arkham Knight, he still lacked depth. So I believe, without a doubt, that this is the best Alfred in the whole franchise. So let's talk about him. Alfred is, at first, hesitant of Bruce's mission. He understands why Bruce becomes the Batman at night. He knows better than anyone else, but he's not really happy. Either way, at first he just lets him be, since before the events of this game, Bruce mostly only dealt with a few street thugs. He wasn't truly facing villains or bigger threats. So, he's fine with it. That's until Batman starts prioritizing the mission more than his own life. He helps Bruce, like when he gives him the antidote to Copperhead's poison or during the Blackgate riot at the start of the game, but it all reaches a breaking point when Batman is fighting Bane at the hotel. Bruce is not winning, he's in fact losing. Like Clown Puncher 139 says in his own video essay, although we as players are able to empty Bane's health bar, we never actually defeat him. If it hadn't been because of Alfred calling the GCPD, Bruce would have died. This only causes a break between them. Bruce tries to make Alfred understand that
because I am the reason the criminals breathe easier when the sun rises.
But he's also way in over his head. He is after all just a man, fighting against 8 trained assassins hired to kill him, and a deranged clown with a personal fantasy involving bats. It isn't until Alfred almost dies that the both of them understand each other. Sure, Bruce is way in over his head, and he might get killed protecting the city, but he can do so much better for the city if he learns to trust others and get help when needed to actually do good by the city. By the end, Alfred learns to trust Bruce and helps him create the legacy that Batman creates for Gotham. But this isn't an easy task. After all, they have to face... Now, the Joker is an interesting character. To be honest, half the time I don't know how I feel about him. He is by far the least interesting character in this game, which is weird because he is always the best character in the other Arkham games where he plays a big role. But still, let's try to understand this version of the Joker. In the beginning, he's just in it for the chaos. He wants to destroy the Batman, he probably heard about it outside of Gotham, and creates a very convoluted plan, where he kidnaps Roman Sionis, makes him shoot his own girlfriend, beats him, impersonates him, and steals his bank, all just to create chaos? To be honest, his original plan is not clear, and we don't completely know why he does all of this. But anyways, then he reveals himself to the Batman, who tries to stop him. After a fight with Bane at the top of the Gotham Royal Hotel, the building is blown up, and the Joker is sent flying to his death, only to be saved by Batman. He doesn't understand this. He has only been a headache to him, killing and torturing people. Getting rid of the Joker would have been the smart choice. Even more, considering that his death wouldn't have been his fault. He could have lived a life free of guilt because he technically wouldn't have killed the Joker. But not only did he save him, he risked his life to do this. Joker doesn't understand why, and after a quick fight with Batman, he is sent to Blackgate Prison, where, in a pretty inventive scene to be honest, he understands that the Batman is his opposite and equal. Then, once again, he conducts an overly elaborated plan to break out of the Blackgate Prison. This time, to destroy the Batman. Not physically, but mentally, by making sure that someone dies that night. After a few encounters with villains and criminals in Blackgate, Batman fights Joker again and explains the whole game to him. After this, Batman successfully stops Joker. The day is safe and Gotham has a worthy knight to protect her of danger. Everything is good and nothing is missing. Right? We have talked about the story, we have talked about the gameplay, and we have talked about the characters. This video is done. We don't have anything left to talk about. We can go on with our lives and praise the video game for everything it does right, knowing that its efforts didn't go in. Okay, it's time to talk about the best character in Arkham Origins and the best depiction of the character that I have personally seen. Bane. Bane is introduced as one of the 8 assassins tasked with killing Batman at the beginning of the game. And to be honest, if you want to know more about his story and character arc in the game, you should check out ClownPuncher139's video on why Bane is the best there's ever been. He did the character justice on his video, and there's nothing I can say that will be better. But I do want to talk about how much I adore this character. This is what Bane should have been in the other Arkham games. Not just a strong character that isn't able to break out of some metal bars, but an actual cunning individual with strength enough to truly destroy the bad. He is emotionally and tactically brilliant, able to dismantle what Bruce has been building for the past year in a single night. The only thing that was able to stop him was his own hubris. Had he left Alfred alone, had he used more venom on his first encounter with Batman, he would have truly broken the bad. He had all the right pieces and the correct way of working. And although he failed at the end, he truly is the most worthy adversary that Batman faces in the whole series, at least in my opinion. He is not like the Joker in Asylum and City, which only does things in service of chaos, or Scarecrow in Arkham Knight, who seems like a smart character, but isn't really able to truly get to Batman's core. Bane is someone who truly understands Bruce, therefore is almost able to beat him. His biggest mistake was believing that killing Alfred would destroy Bruce's resolve, instead of empowering him to do the right thing and be the hero at the end of the day. Truly, when I look at Bane, it makes me think that this is what people in the 90s felt when they saw Bane for the first time. This is the guy from Nightfall. I truly don't have much more to say. Bane is an absolute unit and the best part in this whole game. So, coming back to the question I proposed at the beginning of the video, why was Arkham Origins left out of many discussions? Well, I believe it was just the nature of what it was set out to be. This game wasn't set out to be the next complete entry into the Arkham saga, it was set as the entree to the main meal that was Arkham Knight. It had the same gameplay as Arkham City, the same map, the same villains. The voice actors weren't the same ones we were accustomed to in the first 2 Arkham games, and I don't want to diminish them at all because Roger Craig Smith gives an absolutely stellar version of Batman, one that carried on to Arkham Shadows. Same to Troy Baker, who killed it as the Joker. Not to mention that the game is stuck in the 7th generation consoles. There is no way to play it in modern hardware that isn't PC. In my opinion, this game deserves a remaster, or at least a re-release on modern hardware. And also, we can't forget about the multiplayer. I don't know how fun it was, but it definitely gave off the vibe that this was just a way to make money. And that is what fans saw. This wasn't the continuation to the Arkham saga, but just a cheap cash grab made by the Warner Bros. Executives to milk the franchise. And while it may have begun that way, the people at WB Montreal showed that they truly care about this franchise and its characters, and that they deserve to be part of the Arkham mythos. Arkham Origins wasn't filler. It was the Batman game that gave us something none of the others dared to, a reason to care. In fact, they developed the latest Arkham entry, which I have heard is another amazing game with a truly breathtaking story, which I can experience. But anyways, is Arkham Origins worthy of being an Arkham title? In my opinion, absolutely. It is truly a masterpiece that didn't get the recognition it deserved back in the day. But honestly, I'm happy that what this game accomplished is being praised every day more by people inside the Arkham community, and I hope that we all accept the fact that Arkham Origins is a way better game than Arkham Knight. So thanks everyone for watching. This has been an amazing experience for me. My first video essay. To be honest, I'm not planning to be a YouTuber. I only made this video to showcase my video editing abilities, but I had a lot of fun. Either ways, if you liked the video, drop a like, maybe consider subscribing, and if you think you would appreciate my editing in your videos, you can hit me up on my personal email or Twitter. Both are in the description. Once again, thanks for everything, and I will see you on the other side.